Hi everyone, welcome back to another reading of Calling Dolores. I will finish chapter 1 today. I'm reading days 5, 6, and 7. So thank you for hanging in there with me. I'm so grateful that you're here. If you like the story, please give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, I would love for you to join us. Thank you again. I'm going to get into it because I have a lot to cover. Okay, here we go. Day 5. A hummingbird has come to float like a drone just outside my window. "Look at me, it's easy," it says. Fed up with sitting here with nothing to say, I throw my arms up and walk outside, and it flies away. Then it resumes feasting on bee balm. "Show off," I yell, and stomp back inside to get the laptop. I might as well get vitamin D while I throw my writing tantrum today. I want the words to throw themselves up from the numinous dark, the way they did on day 1, but my confidence is shot. I see this. When I was 7, I'd throw my arms up with conviction that I was a gold medal recipient in the Olympics. I was Nadia Comaneci. My chest tightens. You will never have success. "I want the recognition too," I say to the bird. I accept that I want it. It's all about acceptance these days. I'm an adult, and I still want people to ooh and ah the things I can make happen. Why does this desire rise up uncomfortably for me? The bird flies over to the jasmine, and I float this question as I watch her. She dips her beak into nectar I can't see and then soars over to the angel trumpet vine. Discovery and freedom are part of that answer. These two are constant forces within, urging me to know who I really am, so I may use my imagination and creation to my heart's content. That is, as long as I admit I'm deserving of my dreams. With her belly full of sweetness, the hummingbird whizzes by my ear. "Get to it," I hear. I create easily, and I want others to know they can too. Not just stuff, big dreams, where the universe provides everything. For most of my life, I had every reason to believe the opposite. Seriously, if I can do it, anyone can. As a little girl, there was something my hands had that a witch wanted. She was the real deal. True story. She was not the lesser witch of my consciousness inspired by Hansel and Gretel, who I had a modicum of control over. This one was, as far as I could tell, immortal. She lived in the basement of our house in Pacifica, just north of San Francisco. She had a consort, Ted, who helped her with her evil doings. One day, my mother asked me to run and get her a can of food when she was making dinner. I was 5, and at the time, I attended school at Alma Heights, truly, like my mother's name. And there were stories my teacher, Mrs. Mather, told me nearly every day about witches that confirmed what I already knew. They exist, and I had one living below my bedroom. "Doll," my mother said. She said it as in muñeca, which means doll in Spanish. She liked that she could take the letters from my name and turn them into what she wanted to, making her feel, I guess, she had a command of the English language. "Please bring me a can of stewed tomatoes from downstairs, okay?" She knew I didn't want to. I always told her I was scared of the basement, but she was making me brave. To help me, she got creative, and she went to get the magic wand from the pile of toys in my bedroom for my travels down the stairs. A wooden spatula she bought at the Mercado on one of our trips to Mexico to visit my scary abuela and my grandfather, my beloved Nono. The spoon had been transformed into a gypsy that had long eyelashes painted on her concave face. She had red lips and curly brown yarn hair sticking out of a blue bandana with plastic gold hoops attached with hardened gloppy glue to the edge of the spoon's bowl, which made it appear she had ears. She wore a white, shorter eyelet skirt atop 3 layers of longer, colorful fabrics underneath, which had all been gathered to look waist-high on the stem. She was simple, a fragile toy meant to be held in the middle, that part of her which had been left empty by an artisan who showed me how I could make her move and dance and have conversations with other wooden dolls like her. I only needed to wrap my fingers above her waist in what seemed to me to be empty space. The merchant asked me through broken and yellowed teeth, which my eyes were fixed upon, "What is your name?" His voice attempted to draw me in like other men in my future, which made me want to run the other way. My mother squeezed my hand, and I reluctantly spoke to the toothless gaps. Dolores, I mumbled hesitantly. Well, that is her name too, he said, slapping his knee and leaning toward me. I quickly looked up at my mother, who I was connected to hand, and she smiled at his empty spaces, and I did not understand all the lying in his words, in her smile or in that doll's face. Where are her arms or her insides, I wondered. I sighed and looked in that gypsy face that would be mine, and I doubted she and I would be able to play together. I didn't see how she would fit in with my other playthings in my imagination, but my mother paid 10 centavos for her, and we were on our way. It happened one night soon after our trip to Mexico that I couldn't sleep. I whimpered like a puppy in my bed until my mother came in to comfort me. She told me the story of a wooden doll, you know the one, with the long nose, but this doll was different because she didn't have one. It's not a lie, she has no nose, hija, she said in English, which she rarely spoke to me in. Right then, I imagined her speaking with people from behind her desk at work, and she suddenly exuded authority I really wanted to be close to, so I sidled up next to her. She tucked me in close to her leg and continued. She was born special, without one, on purpose. Instead, she has big eyes. Do you see? She casually glanced over to the spoon doll, staring at us with the dull whites of her eyes, which I didn't like at all because they weren't bright and really, they reminded me of mine. They can see a lie, she continued. She has magic eyelashes that are really like a dream catcher's web, where she catches them. She will make the girl who plays with her even more real. You mean like Tia Rosario's dream catcher with the feathers? I interrupted my mother, eager to see the details she described. Yes, just like it, and the pressure of her hand rubbing the bed cover around my shoulder comforted me, which made me feel I was in the story. I then saw the dream catcher in my mind's eye hanging from the rearview mirror of my tia's yellow VW bug. When I'd asked my Tia Rosario where she got it, she told me Hestia, the old woman that lived alone on the farm next to theirs, had given it to her when she was a girl in Aguascalientes. She told me it would only let pass through its center the good dreams we have. I asked my tia what happened to the bad dreams that were caught in the web, but her silence told me she hadn't figured that part out. I think there were just too many bad dreams for the web to handle in that family. I felt I had to make sense of these eyes that were also dream catchers for me and for my tia, so I could be the one to share it with her. We shared a special bond because we were born on the same day, but 20 years apart, and we both had enlarged hearts when we were born. So what happens to the lies after she catches them? I asked my mother. Listen, mi amor. As she spoke, my mother stood up from my bed and brought me the wooden gypsy doll, La Gitana, the gypsy, from my toys that lined the wall. She held her middle stem and had her face me as she spoke for the doll. I will sleep under your bed, watching for the lies of the world that live underground, with my eyes wide open, and when I see one, I will catch it for you here in my lashes. I reached up to my own lashes and gave them a slight tug, which caused me to blink uncomfortably. She continued, While you sleep, I will toss them up to heaven, where they will be made into something new. I will close and open my eyes many times until they are gone from my lashes. When you wake up, your eyes will only see what is true, what is real and good. Do you understand? But what about my fingers the witch wants? I asked with worry that there would not be an answer. Without hesitation, my mother spoke for the small mouth of La Gitana before me. They, she paused as she reached for my clenched fist to soften it, unfurling my small fingers, are where you will keep your truths. Hold them tight and keep them tucked safely inside. I was made a little less afraid by my mother's story, and with La Gitana awake beneath me, I was able to sleep that night. But I knew that witch was down in our basement. I'd seen her in the middle of the day. She sat behind a great big metal desk my parents kept down there, with an electric typewriter that I dared not play with, even though I'd been given permission. It was hers. I heard her at night, every letter she pressed and every one of my fingers, all hers. When my mother brought me my gypsy spoon so I could get her what she needed from the basement for our dinner, she first dubbed me with it, each of my shoulders, and then my forehead. She seemed certain this witch could be reduced to a lie we could easily do away with. Sensing my doubt, my mother spoke of truth being magic as she handed me La Gitana, and I have to admit, this emboldened me. I looked up at her as I received the spoon at the top of the stairs for my journey down. I said three truths to myself. I love my mommy, my daddy, and my baby Adriana. They bubbled up without my having to think as I enclosed my fingers around that magic stem. I saw that with my hand I had given her insights, and I was pleased. Each step I took down the stairs was cautious, and I held the doll close to my heart. The eyes of La Gitana faced the lies below while mine stayed open. Almost to the bottom, I looked straight ahead to a corner I had to turn to see the L-shaped room, to enter the part that belonged to the witch in my basement. I walked between the long pool table, a garage sale find, and the blood orange brickwork of the chimney, stretching myself to take a peek inside that other room. A heavy silence pervaded the space. My breath drew in, soothing me briefly. As I breathed out, I looked behind me, and left and right in slow motion. I stopped to grab the can of tomatoes on the built-in shelf next to me. Then I faced the room where the empty desk stood. Time stopped, and I almost trusted. Then, from nowhere, the specter emerged, injecting herself into that sublime space. I froze, terrified. I beheld a cold, dark green energy just 15 feet away, pulling at me. Her eyes were sunken and clouded, her fingers gnarled. She was as old as time, like La Muerte, the death card in the game Loteria that I hated getting when we played in Mexico. I was immobilized by the needles on my skin. She held what my father called the golf ball, the type ball, a sphere containing on its surface all the characters which imprinted onto paper with the stroke of each key. I was horrified as she extended her bony arm out to show it to me before she brought it up close to her small, sharp, and rotting teeth. As she swallowed it, she faded and became invisible. This had never happened before. Her transparency shocked me. My feet were glued to the ground. I felt dizzy. The squeeze inside my chest was distinct, like my heart was collapsing. Still unable to move, it felt like 1,000 knives descended from the top of my head, cutting my insides and my bladder, causing it to empty. The witch changed the game. She could be anywhere at any time now, and I had everything to fear. "Dolores, are you coming up?" My mother's voice was distant. I hurled myself toward it and tripped over my feet, and I fell in slow motion. I dropped the tomatoes and La Gitana right there, and the can rolled on the tiled floor toward the desk. I heard it hit the desk or the wall as my feet got caught on the carpet where the room turned. I knew the witch was inside of me. I was sure of it. I felt her shadowy essence like a burdensome weight as I lifted myself from the ground. I took one torpid step at a time toward the stairs. I felt her close behind me, but as I looked over my shoulder, it was Ted I saw in my periphery, smiling crazily, his bald head like a bullet now approaching me. I scrambled. At the landing, I sensed my mother above me, but I could not look up to her. It took all my determination to lift a foot. With my head down, there was only one step I could take, and it took all of my will to move my body upward and forward. Mi amor! The worry in her voice made me panic more. What did she see that I couldn't? Was Ted right behind me now? And where was the witch? I heard myself say the words, "I need you, Mommy." An undeterminable time passed. I fell. I got up. I tripped. I wanted her to see what I could see. My body hit the side wall. I pushed through what seemed like endless miles spanning the distance between me and the one person that could protect me. One step at a time, I ran for my life. I finally reached my mother, and I couldn't get close enough to her. I wanted to crawl inside her. My screams were in silence. I could not hear my voice. Only a living fear permeated the space that was me. I buried myself in my mother's being, craving a softness that I would not find, not then or at any time in my childhood. As my ear pressed against her chest, I listened, but the effort was in vain. She grabbed my shoulders and moved me away from her. "Silly girl!" I shook uncontrollably while warm liquid squished in my shoes. She pounded my back to bring my breath back. She held my arms firmly at a distance from her. Why did she extend that useless spoon story? Why had I trusted? I stood there, wide-eyed, without words, just like that spoon with no arms. The realization that my mother could not protect me was too much for me to take. I had to put something in place, some kind of spell for damage control for my future self. I repeated it many times while I pinched my arm while my mother wiped my tears. "I'm not magic. I'm not magic." And I knew Hecate, for that was the witch's name, had heard me and was satisfied. In the hospital, my mother presses her lips to the translucent cell between us. We're still in that place of healing. Stay with me. She watches stories dance beneath my eyelids. While I don't feel her kiss on my skin, my fears are suspended. Arms are free, hands on the keys, the words are released. Get a little more comfy. Day 6. Day 6 is hazy. The page and I are suffering from a failure to thrive, and I'm not absorbing what is needed very well. My medical team has managed to insulate me from almost every bacteria, but haven't managed to keep the stress, the elusive malignancy from seeping the quarter-inch shield of my plexi fortress. Is it helping me to go back in time to put things in perspective? Right now, I can't say it is. It's 1967. It's a bleak landscape of evil forces that rule the world. 475,000 are serving in Vietnam. Israel is at war with Syria, Egypt, and Jordan. China has tested its first hydrogen bomb. In America, rioting and looting are exploding. The worst is in Detroit. Then my Uncle Raphael dies on my first birthday when he joins the protest against the military occupation of the National Polytechnic Institute in Mexico. Why do bad things happen to good people? Images of my colorful star piñata break open my mind as I think about Rafa's blood spilling in the plaza of the three cultures. Happy photos marking a celebration, put in the context of true events, further my discomfort. The memory punctuates how difficult getting to a real and sustained state of peace truly is when the world ails as it does. There's so much I want to accomplish as a new character in the world's story, but it's daunting. How much of a difference can one voice make? No wonder many of us want to give up from the get-go. Although the book, The Power of Positive Thinking, has been out for several years and sits on my parents' bookshelf, my tribe has not read it. Would it help them? I don't know. The power of negative thinking controls and debilitates my kin. I'm absorbing everything, good and bad. My skin is losing its defenses and I'm becoming permeable. I will be a kid that takes the pulse of a crowded room and figures out immediately who the saddest person is. It is never the one anyone imagines. I will not be aware of the accuracy of my intuition because my inner doubt will rule my inner landscape and relentlessly erode what little confidence takes root. Frequent verbal beatdowns as a child will do that. Remembering my mother feverishly erasing my incorrect division problems as she said in Spanish, "No, idiot, I told you to do it my way," just makes me want to erase my entire history. How much farther along might I be if warm and fuzzy words had enveloped me like a reassuring blanket? There's guilt in revealing the details of my life, and blame, as you can see, is rearing its ugly head, despite my efforts to couch this retelling in a rebirth. I'm trying to name the sorrows so they can finally rest in peace, so I can finally take a vacation. God, I need a vacation. I'm all over the place. What's anchoring this chapter? My mother doesn't say it, but she holds my father responsible for my poor health as if he could have helped his enlarged heart or passing the anomaly on to me. I remember now, my heart. I am tending to its desires. My father believes his big heart makes him stronger, and he pushes himself to the extreme physically to prove this to himself. It also helps him deal. My mother believes he's wrong. "It's going to explode one day," she said angrily about his heart when he'd been gone for several hours on his bike. I was 14. Like it wasn't already hazardous to be me. I now too had a ticking time bomb inside to deal with. He had been gone for 3 months that time, attending meetings I never knew about until many years later. During his absence, my mother refused to discuss his whereabouts with me. "He'll be home soon," is all I got. When he finally did return, it was on his bike. Those were memorable days when at first we rode together, but soon I wasn't going far enough without getting tired, and then I was just the warm-up to his longer ride. I was so jealous of his bike, the way it lightened his load in a way that I never could. "He just avoids responsibility," my mother ranted. "Who avoids responsibility?" I hear a faint voice ask. "What was that?" I ask out loud, then stare off into space. I'm working hard here to see my sad childhood through a new and improved perception. Obviously not there yet. Thank you for your patience. Tick-tock, we march on into my parents' bedroom because I hear my mother crying. I'm about to turn 15. My father's hand is raised like he's going to strike her. His red, angry face is right up to hers, and I hear words I don't even want to tell you. The blood vessels bulge from his neck. I didn't want to walk in. Her words, not his. "I'm taking my girls away from you." Things are heating up within these incubators' walls. My mother is beside herself that I seem catatonic. My big glassy baby eyes are unblinking. Uh-oh, looks like she's had enough. "Ya basta!" Her hand shoots out up into the air as she stands up, militant-like, and heads over to the nurse's station. This better be good. I need a way out of this mess. I have no idea where this part of the story, my time incubating in the hospital, is going. "I want to speak with Dr. White, please." She pronounces doctor emphatically, rolling her R and in Spanish, so I'm paying attention. And for some reason, this and the fact that his name is White just cracks me up, since I spent much of my childhood being hung up on being dark. I feel some comic relief. In fact, I feel some cosmic relief. The faint voice says louder, "You said it yourself, you're here for levity." I recognize this ancient voice inside me. It's about time. It's no easy feat to be a clear channel for inspiration. Where is this book's strange multi-day beginning going? I ask. I wait. Another eternal minute goes by. Why does it seem like there is never an answer from your soul when you need one? It takes the doctor several minutes to get there, but when my mother finally walks him over to me, and this is no joke, she knocks on the incubator plastic. "Who's there?" my baby projection asks, as if on cue, as if I know the script already, which I don't. Please pardon the lunacy. Inspiration can be reckless in its delivery. But I laugh at the idea that I'm an infant who can speak, and I realize in this brand new moment, I'm actually enjoying myself. Who knew writing about devastatingly sad stuff could be fun? "Doctor!" my mother yells over the nurse's station. "Dolores is finally responding." Day 7. Well, I'm certainly grateful for the reprieve from the serious parts of my history. Unfortunately, this is no day of Sabbath for my father. There's no rest for what I'm creating for him. He has spent more time with St. Dolores than he has with me. He arrives from work and goes straight to her like it's his job or something, like they have arrived at some kind of understanding. If I am kept alive, rather, if I am made healthy, he has negotiated with her that he will become the recipient of future suffering for others. Really. He makes a deal with St. Dolores, mind to spirit, that he will take on whatever hardships are necessary for the well-being of not just me, but his whole family, including any forgotten and or lost souls also in need of help. This is how he makes meaning of his life. His heart has to be pretty big to handle it all. It is ridiculous how much there will be. He has already taken hits many times since he was a very little boy, with wooden spoons, the metal part of the belt buckle to his face, with a paddle to the back of his hands, arms, and legs, and later with bullets in Vietnam, like he is some kind of dumping ground for everything that is wrong with this world. My heart pauses as I think about him. A nurse rushes over. Not to be overly dramatic, but I'm seriously debating, should I stay or should I go? My breathing is labored. My heart's too big. It looks like I'll be sad a lot. Is sharing my vulnerability really necessary? The nurse waits. This has happened before, where I stop breathing. Her eyes go wide, so she reaches for the button that will bring my healing team running. You already know I have a soft spot for my father, but I have to confess, it kind of drives me crazy that he believes I can do and be whatever I want when he can't believe in himself in the same way. One day, he said on many occasions, you will be a doctor and you will find a cure for all illness. Did I say he believed I could be whatever I want? I meant he believed I could be whatever he wanted. The point is, he thought I had it in me to be something great. He still does. He wants me to believe I'm strong. When he wrestled with Adriana and me, he pretended to be Bluto from the cartoon Popeye while we pinned him to the ground. Stop agitating, Dolores, my mother yelled during my many coughing fits as my father handed me the imaginary can of spinach. I'd tear it open and pretend to swallow it along with my cough while I stood on him, with one foot on his chest like a conqueror. She needs this, he yelled back at my mother. The doctor orders an increase to my oxygen. As my breathing restores and syncs with my heart, my thoughts go to when I am 6 years old. I am swinging at Dolores Park, overlooking San Francisco. My father is pushing my feet, watching me smile as my courage gathers. What do you see? He asks me. The Bay Bridge, I yell as my legs pump back and forward. It is the day I jump for the first time and one of a handful of sweet memories I have of my father free from his dolor. My legs extend, my neck arches, my head tilts back, and my mind slips into an infinite second of stillness. He said the words to me that follow. These are blows I took for him growing up. We were in the ring together. You're a phony, he said when I told him I was majoring in Spanish. You're taking the easy way out. I am responsible for allowing his words to derail my goals time and again. You didn't work hard enough, he said at the finish line of a half Ironman I completed while nausea came up along with his unexpected feedback. It especially brought me what made me grow. I know that now. All I ever wanted was to go higher, beyond these thoughts. What might I find there? Look out, I scream, and my father dodges my kick. He laughs out loud, and my heart soars with the clouds. Again, again, I say. My stomach leaps. I giggle nervously as the city of my birth draws near with every swing. One day I will live here. My father shares my dream, and I want to give him the tools to create his dreams, beginning with a new world in his head. My fingers unfurl from a chain. Jump now, he yells. My small hands reach into the space between us. His smile, freeze-framed in my recollection, is still there when we stop to get ice cream after our time at the park and when we enter our house and tell my mother about our fun. How I wish the lightness of the day had been bottled. I'd uncork it every day and let it fly free. My heart soars on that swing, buoyed by a simple hope that the quality of the moment echoes into the future. There is no ground beneath me as I let go, or guarantees my father will ever be released from his heartache. His arms stretch wide, and I want to fill them up with all the goodness he deserves. I love you, Daddy. It's your turn now. Love lands in his arms, unbound. Thinking of my father keeps my heart humming, albeit slowly. The nurse takes a deep breath. She is relieved. She goes to the nurse's station, and I am left to wander the empty halls of my mind alone for the evening. Wait for it. He's decided to stop in. I see the nurse point to her watch, and my father nods. Visiting hours are almost over. He looks down at a swaddling babe, and I see through him. His pain is palpable. We're here for a short time, but a good time, I want to say to him. I wish we could speak into our memories and he'd hear me. This is about your mother, her mother, even my mother. They'll be lost without you, he says as he places his head in his hands. Then my big, strong daddy breaks down and sobs. Good grief. I thought we were moving towards a lighter touch. I can't take this veil of tears thing for one more minute. People will be lost without me. Please. You know I'm not the girl to help them find themselves. And that's the end for today. Thank you again. Have a great weekend. I will see you all again here on Monday. Thank you. Bye.